morning, everybody. It's amazing how much of a lack of education there is in the world. So there was a video I saw that Kyle Rittenhouse, he wants to attend Arizona State University. I think even online, wants to take some courses, something. And the students, they want to ban him, and they got up and they were saying, he killed 2 black people, which he didn't. He was actually a supporter of the proper idea that Black Lives Matter, protecting black businesses from white rioters from the BLM movement, which doesn't really uphold the ideology that Black Lives Matter. It's just an excuse to just destroy things, right? And not only destroy things physically, but they want to just destroy America. They want to destroy the whole foundation. They're anarchists, communists, whatever they are. I understand those are opposites, but it's there's some diversity there. And so he killed 2 white men, right? And the left is lying and saying this guy killed black people, right? And he killed white men defending himself and defending black-owned businesses from these white felonious rioters with long criminal rap sheets. They were child molesters, people who should never have been let out of prison to begin with, right? And I'm someone who works in a prison with child molesters, and they're in jail where they belong, right? And same thing, this debate now about the Mississippi law that's got to the Supreme Court and most likely will overturn Roe versus Wade. The fear that exists is that now, based on this, the Democrats will pack the courts, other things, or they'll have some kind of victory, that they'll be able to get there, politically, that they'll rile up their base. But weren't the Democrats the ones who said it's worth it if it just saves one life? Meaning, could destroy all these lives with the lockdowns. How many people became alcoholics and how many people committed suicide? But it's worth it because you might save one life. Putting masks on little kids and locking down the whole country. 2 weeks to flatten the curve that turned into 2 years, right? Because to save one life, right? So might be worth it for us. The same thing. The political backlash that's possible that we don't know about yet to save, not one life, but millions and millions of lives that are being murdered every year. But the fact of the matter is, overturning Roe versus Wade will not ban abortion. All it will do, and that's again, the same type of fear-mongering and lies of how the left is accusing Kyle Rittenhouse of killing people of color when he killed white people trying to defend people of color, meaning he himself was trying to defend people of color from white people who were destroying their businesses and then threatening to kill him, and probably would have killed him if he didn't defend himself, as he was bravely and heroically trying to protect people of color from these rioters and their businesses from these rioters, right? Their property. Because not just Black Lives Matter, but Black livelihoods matter. And I think that's, that's something that also we have to bring up. I have a bumper sticker that says "Unborn Black Lives Matter," because, because that's something we have to talk about. But we also have to talk about Black livelihoods matter. Giving Black people the economic abilities to pull themselves up, like President Trump did with the economic opportunity zones, and with funding traditionally, historically Black colleges and universities. 2 things that Biden took away because the Democrats want the blacks to be their slaves. And if they can't enslave them, they want to kill them. And that's really what this fight is about. they make people think that it's about women's choices and their bodies and this and that, when there's a disproportionately larger amount of abortions in the black communities because of the push by groups like Planned Parenthood not to have it as a choice, but to try to, whereas, in New York City...
In 2 miles, take exit 284 for Pennsylvania 115 South.
For decades now, a black baby is more likely to be lynched in the womb in New York City than to survive and be born. And you're going to tell me that this is an issue of choice as opposed to an issue of brainwashing, of systematic racism, trying to push people into these things, and I'm not saying that black people can't make their own decisions. I'm not saying that, God forbid. I'm saying that there's a culturally endemic, systematic racism that's been pushed from the very beginning of what I call Planned Parenthood, because that's really, the whole issue is eugenics. There certainly are, medically necessary times when a pregnancy has to be incidentally terminated in order to save a mother's life.
In half a mile, take exit 284 for Pennsylvania 115 South.
And that's what Judaism allows and even mandates, to save the mother's life. But that's not an abortion. An abortion is an intentional destruction of the baby's life, the intentional murder of the baby, really.
Take exit 284.
And there are, just like, and the truth is, with the gun control
in half
questions,
a mile, keep left at the fork. Follow signs for Pennsylvania 115 South, Lake Harmony.
We have to learn the history of the systemic racism of the Democrat Party and how they grab onto these two issues that are linked to their systemic racism. And you still want to tell me that the party's flipped? Meaning gun control.
Keep left at the fork, then turn left onto Pennsylvania 115 South.
Has always really been, gun control has always really been a racist issue.
Turn left onto Pennsylvania 115 South.
The reason why the Democrats made gun control laws for centuries was to keep guns out of the hands of innocent black people.
Continue on Pennsylvania 115 South for 2 miles.
So they could kill them. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was looking to get a gun permit. He couldn't get one. And so he was a sitting duck, because that was the design of the Democrat Party, is to make it impossible for innocent black people to defend themselves from the terrorist wing of the Democrat Party, which at the time was the Ku Klux Klan. Now they say, well, all the Klans people are now Republicans. First of all, that's not true. In 2016, many of the leaders of the Ku Klux Klan, who could, the Ku Klux Klan itself could all fit in a phone booth, if we still have phone booths, right? Meaning there aren't any of these people. So now, what the Democrats are saying is like the people who freed the slaves, they're the white supremacists. That's what's going on now. Is that like, oh, if you teach math, you're a white supremacist? No, the white supremacists were the Democrats. And the fact is, a lot of the leaders of the Klan, which are all insignificant politically, supported Hillary Clinton. David Duke said that the most important member of Congress is Ilhan Omar, right? So don't be giving me this whole thing that, meaning the one that he supports the most is Ilhan Omar, right? So don't be giving me this whole, the party's flip thing. It didn't happen. But there's more than that. Like I'm saying, the two big issues of gun control And so why is gun control still dangerous for black people? Because black on black crime is
In
increased.
half a mile, turn right onto Pennsylvania 903 South.
Is increased because of gun control in the inner city communities. Meaning gun laws are not going to prevent criminals from getting guns. It's only going to prevent the
Take the next
law-abiding.
right onto Pennsylvania 903 South.
Right? It's only going to prevent the law-abiding citizens from having guns. So that makes the innocent, law-abiding black people in the inner cities sitting ducks to black
Continue
on
on
black crime.
Pennsylvania 903 South for 7 miles.
And the reason for that is that they want to increase. It's basically the Democrats doing their lynching by proxy through increasing black on black crime. And so when people say that bringing up black on black crime is not the proper approach because of these issues of racism and Black Lives Matter, it's not an issue with black on black crime. It is, because black on black crime is created by the systemic racism of the Democrat-run cities, and it creates that atmosphere which is, and the thing is, and just by sheer numbers, the black on black crime, meaning it's black on black crime is due to white supremacy. It's due to the Democrat Party. It's due to systemic racism by the Democrat Party. And it's due to gun control, meaning if the law-abiding people in those cities had guns, the criminals would be afraid to attack them. And there would not be as much black on black crime if law-abiding citizens had access to guns to protect themselves. And that is by design, because they want to wipe out, the Democrats want to wipe out the black race. They didn't have them there's no more cotton to pick. This is what, it was a black woman said this. Now they want to kill them. And so too, that's why they put the abortion clinics more in the black communities than anywhere else. That is why in New York City, run by Democrats, a black baby is more likely to be lynched in the womb than to be born. That is the history. I'm not getting into the whole issues about, and also according to, you want to talk about religion, in Judaism, a non-Jewish abortion is a murder. And the Jewish abortion is a manslaughter. Right? Well, it's an attack. It's meaning it's still a crime. It's still a sin. It's only time that and again, there's a difference between a termination, an incidental, unwanted termination of a pregnancy in order to save a mother's life, and an abortion which is intentional. So this idea about the Uber Shebemei Imoy, that is coming when it has a din of eroitiv, and there's all these other issues, and also it's still a Uber Shebemei Imoy. Right, so there is a nafka mina, you're right, in halacha between a uber shebemei imay and a baby and a yolud, between an unborn child and a born child. Once the head comes out, or 51% of the body comes out, then even to save the mother's life, you just let nature take its course. You don't do anything. And so these partial birth abortions are actually, the way that they are committed, would actually not even be allowed to save the mother's life. So because once the head comes out, then it's not allowed to even to save the mother's life. So that's from the religious standpoint. Although so all these people are saying that Judaism, says that you have to have. Judaism is pro-choice. No, Judaism is not pro-choice. Judaism is pro-life. Judaism is the first pro-life religion. Before that, the ancient Romans would murder babies that were already born. And that's what the left really wants to bring back. They want to bring back, there are a lot of neo-pagans and things, but and they would like to bring back abandoning babies in the woods that are unwanted and so forth, and just letting them die. that was the pagan tradition, right? In ancient Rome and ancient Greece and so forth, and throughout much of the pagan world. And that was the one thing. We want to talk about the Judeo-Christian ethic. People say there's no such thing as a Judeo-Christian ethic because they're two different religions. No, Judeo-Christian ethic is the ethics, not the theology. The theology is different. Ethics, there are ethical issues that, even though there are differences, there are certain things that we share. And so when I talk about, the one thing I like to always mention is the story of the Hindu priests, where the colonial British colonial political leaders, whatever they were, they said to the Hindu priests, "We will respect your tradition of burning widows if you respect our tradition of hanging men who burn innocent widows who don't deserve to die." And meaning to say, you want to keep your religion, you want to worship your gods, that's not our business. We can still send our missionaries who will offer our religion to you, and you can make your choice. The Christians would do that. But so meaning the British government, even if they were sending missionaries from England, they weren't saying you have to become Anglican to live in India. No, you have a choice. You pick one or the other, but we're offering you the choice, right? But you can't murder innocent people. And okay, so right, when it comes to saving a mother's life within the Jewish law, it's similar to to if you have a limb that's gangrene and you have to amputate the limb. That's what it comes down to. Like I said, the incidental termination of a pregnancy. It's not an abortion. It's a termination that's incidental and unwanted, just like nobody wants to amputate an arm, right? God forbid, right? But if someone has some kind of a mental illness, they want to cut off their arm, right? Or they just want to do it for fun. Let's see what this is like, Let's cut off a finger, just see what. You're not allowed to do that, You're not allowed to just mutilate your body just for, to be fashionable, right? All right, the piercing is there's no indication. The indication is that the people did have piercings in biblical time, and there's nothing wrong with that. People had earrings and nose rings and things in the Bible. So, but still, that was part of their culture. But the tattooing was forbidden for the Israelites and other cultures. I don't think under the 7 laws of Noah it's forbidden, but under the 7 laws of Noah, based in the verse in Genesis, it says it appears, according to at least one opinion, that it's that abortion is murder for someone who's not Jewish, and even for someone who's Jewish. The only discussion in the Torah is about an accidental miscarriage, that was caused by a woman. The example that's given is that the woman is trying to
in
break
half
up
a mile,
a fight.
continue straight to stay on Pennsylvania 903 South.
She's trying to break up a fight, and then someone hits her, and she miscarries. Some people want to interpret that to be not a miscarriage, but a premature birth, but that's not actually what it means. It means a miscarriage.
Continue straight to stay on Pennsylvania 903 South, then turn left onto the ramp to Allentown.
And so, with the miscarriage...
Turn left onto the ramp to Allentown, then merge onto I-476 South.
Meaning if someone commits an unintentional manslaughter, they're sent to the city of refuge. And here they're not sent to the city of refuge. They have to pay a fine, just like if you would cut off someone's arm, right? So there is an idea of that makes, biblically speaking, makes a comparison between an unintentional termination of a pregnancy and other damage that would be done, or even
Continue on
intentional.
I-476 south for 67 miles.
Yeah, it's not just it's intentional. It would seem, she got hit, but nonetheless, with that being said, it's nonetheless a crime. It's nonetheless something that has consequences, and so therefore, this whole idea that it's something that it's only, where the Talmud talks about, the Mishnah talks about this case where the mother's life is in danger. That's where one is allowed to perform a medical procedure to save the mother's life, but that's not an issue of choice. Nobody chooses that. It's something that happens in a natural term of events, and so therefore a doctor is given the duty to save the mother's life. That's not what we're talking about. The same thing, we'll give an example. If a woman has cancer, God forbid, and she has to take chemotherapy, and she's pregnant, and it kills her baby, it causes the pregnancy to be terminated. If there's no other choice, so that's what you do. But nobody would call that an abortion. It would be the unintentional, unwanted, incidental termination of a pregnancy in order to save the mother's life from a dangerous situation, right? So this is, but again, we want to. So everyone would admit that if it's for a medically necessary reason, it should be legal, and that is where religions can have the choice back and forth. I think some of the Catholics would say you can't do it, and most of the Protestants would agree with the Jews, and these types of things. And that's where maybe you want to talk about a choice, that type of thing. That if the mother, she's a devout Catholic and she wants to choose to be a martyr to save the baby's life, but if the baby's not viable either, and that's where they have their ethics boards in their hospitals and so forth. But that's a different story. First of all, right now there are very few cases where a viable baby is causing a threat to the mother's life, that it's necessary to terminate that pregnancy. But if such a case arises, so of course it has to be done. But it's different than what we're talking about, the abortion industry. The abortion industry is not about choice. It's about systemic racism. It's about eugenics. It's the idea of Planned Parenthood is not about, meaning, again, I'm talking about the difference between Planned Parenthood, which I call Planned Parenthood, as an organization. It's not about women's health. It's about maintaining the population, getting rid of the people that the eugenicists, the people that inspired the Nazis, see as undesirable. That is what the planning is about. And that is egregious. It has no place in polite society. That is Nazi ideology. That is systemic racism. And anyone who wants to try to tell me that the party's flipped, we have to show that why are they still holding on to these two issues that are systemically racist in their history as basic of gun control and abortion. These are basically the sacraments of the Democratic religion, the Democrat Party religion. To the point where one might question, are there some neo-pagan Molech worship involved in this push for the abortion industry. You know, you hear stories about different cults that they sacrifice babies and so forth. You know, there's this one woman who went on Oprah Winfrey and claimed that she was involved in some kind of a cult in a synagogue in Chicago, and maybe, I don't know if that linked to the Sabbateans or the Frankists, and that there are some pockets of these cults that still exist, God forbid, or if her story is just fantasy. This woman started an organization to try to, prevent a lot of the sex abuse and things, but it's very different than like with, let's say, Nachum Rosenberg, who I know is controversial. It's a very different thing when you have someone who is accusing a blood libel type of a thing. I don't know, So, but perhaps, the left, you never know with these people. They might be attached to this type of cultish ideology. We know certain aspects of them are, as someone was asking me about this, and then again, I'm not saying the whole Rothschild family, but there are members of the Rothschild family who are involved in very cultish, you might even call satanic type of rituals, the spirit cooking, and these types of things. It's, who knows if, from what we know about it, at what point do they go over